And then I also realised that the mould was so crappy it started to leak from the sides. So I just got fed up and I threw it away. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would take inspiration from the first ever video I made on my YouTube channel, which was over 2 years ago now. I think it's been about 2 years, 3-4 months. And in that video I showed you how to make a resin and feather paperweight. And it's an awful video. I would not recommend watching it. It is not good. I am incredibly awkward and uncomfortable and it's just a disaster. I don't know how it got the views it got. It's shite. So today I'm going to be making some epoxy resin paperweights, and I'm going to give you a very basic tutorial on how to use epoxy resin as well, because I know some people can be intimidated by resin and it's actually a really easy material to use. It can be a little bit fiddly, a little bit hit and miss, but it's something you shouldn't be scared of or anything like that. If I can do it, then you can definitely do it. Okay, so to start off with epoxy resin, you basically get one side which is your resin and one side which is a catalyst, and you mix those two up together and that creates a chemical reaction which then heats up the resin and that sets into a solid plastic. And I get my resin from a site called Easy Composites, and that's not sponsored or anything like that. I've just been buying my resin from them for many years and they've always been pretty decent. Depending on what resin you're going to use, even different brands of epoxy resin, you're going to mix it to a ratio of hardener and the actual resin. And this one's 50 to 100. So for every 1 part resin you want half catalyst. Others can be different and it can be different based on weight or volume. But if you go for one that's just 1.5, it's really easy to do. You can't really mess it up. Well, you can, but you would struggle. So I just pour out my resin into 1 cup and my catalyst into another cup with the exact measurements that I'm supposed to be using. And then I combine both of those into a separate container and give it a mix. And you want to give epoxy resin a really good mix. Mix it for at least a minute. Make sure to scrape all the sides, get it fully incorporated. And the first paperweight I'm going to be making is a little gemstone one. So I've got a gemstone mould here and I'm using a red, a blue and a yellow mica powder and just applying a thin layer with a paintbrush over the surface of the inside of the mould, making sure to get the full thing covered, and I want all the colours to mix in from one another. I don't want it to be too blocky, and just tap out any excess. And the inside looks a little bit like this. And then all you do is just pour the resin all the way to the top of the mould and leave that to one side to set. After a couple of days it was time to demould my little paperweight, and it was quite the struggle. I had quite the chew on trying to get it out of this mould. But I eventually did. And it looks a little bit like this, and I think it's turned out really cool. It looks almost iridescent, kind of petrol-like. All the colours mix into one another, and because it's a gem shape as well, it really refracts the light and it just looks so cool. I was really pleased with it. Okay, for the next paperweight I thought I would do a cube-shaped one, and I also thought I would make this one a Christmas-themed paperweight. So I just took a little plastic Christmas tree and placed that into the centre, and I also took some little polystyrene balls and just placed them in the bottom, and then I added a layer of resin over the top. And obviously because the polystyrene balls are going to float, I have to do this paperweight in several different layers. So I did exactly the same process again and again. And once it was fully set, I demoulded it. And unfortunately, this one didn't look very good. It looks a bit shitty. My idea was to go for more of a kind of snow globe paperweight, and this one, it's just very line. So if I was to do this one again, I would do much thinner layers and place my balls a little bit more strategically. It doesn't look awful. It just doesn't look how I wanted it to look. For this next paperweight, I decided to use a little gemstone mould, and I just poured my resin in first, and then I added a few drops of alcohol ink in white, blue and purple. And then I used a pencil, put it down the middle, and just span and twirled the colours, hoping that I would get kind of like a marbled effect, and left that to set. Unfortunately, I didn't get the results that I wanted, and it just ended up looking like a transparent blue gem. And it looks fine for what it is, but it's just not what I wanted at all. So I wouldn't say that one had been particularly successful. For my next epoxy resin paperweight idea, I thought I would take some gold leaf and just break that up and mix it into the resin. Once I was happy with that, I just poured it into the mould and let it set. I think this idea actually turned out quite well. I would say that it would work way better on a bigger scale. I am going to say this as well, there doesn't seem to be many people who make large scale silicone or latex moulds for paperweights or anything like that. So if you're looking for a business idea, get on it 100%, because all the paperweight moulds I could find were just so small, so tiny, and I wanted something a bit more chunky and substantial. But obviously if your paperweight mould making business goes well, then, you know, I'm owed 50% because it's my idea. But yeah, so that one wasn't too bad. I just think it would look way nicer on a larger scale. This next paperweight idea did not go well at all, and it was the biggest fail out of all of them. So I took a spherical paperweight mould, which has a little gap at the top so you can pour the resin into, and it comes in 2 parts. And I just popped a little polystyrene strawberry into the centre, and then started to pour my resin on top. Now I should have known that this strawberry was going to float all the way to the top of the mould, and I should have really done it in 2 layers, or maybe even 3 layers. But I didn't think of that, did I? So I just carried on pouring and pouring until it was too late. The strawberry floated right to the top.
Jack. 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 Jack.
So I sat there for a while contemplating my life and the decisions I'd made. And then I also realised that the mould was so crappy it started to leak from the sides. So I just got fed up and I threw it away. So I don't have anything to show you with that one. It was just a write-off, a complete write-off. For my next paperweight idea, I thought I would again use a pyramid mould, and I just added a variety of different kinds of drawn pins, and then poured the resin over the top. Very simple. And I just put that to one side and let it set. And I think the finished result looks okay. It doesn't look anything fancy. I think if I'd been more strategic with how I'd placed the pins, I could have got a way better result. But other than that, it looks basically what you would expect it to look like. I decided with this one that I would learn my lesson from the strawberry mistake that I'd made previously, and I took a gemstone mould and a little artificial rose head, and I just placed the rose head inside the mould, poured resin over half of it, and then put it to one side and let it set. The next day I added another layer of resin right to the top just to finish it off, and again let that set. And I think this one turned out quite well. It looks really nice. It's quite difficult to see on camera. There's a bit of a closer look there with a bit better light. I think it looks quite nice. It's very much a Beauty and the Beast kind of inspired paperweight. Way better than the strawberry one. My next paperweight idea was very similar to the previous ones I'd made when I had encapsulated objects inside of them. But this time I was using shells, so I knew they wouldn't float. So I just popped them into the mould, poured some resin over the top, and let that set. And I think that one looks quite cute. Looking back now, what I should have done is added a layer of sand over the top, and then it could have been like a more of a beachy kind of paperweight, and just added a little bit more like oomph to it, because it does look a little bit plain. But other than that, it worked. It wasn't ruined, so that's a win. And after my previous attempt at using alcohol inks and it not working particularly well, I thought I would try again with a different one. And this time I just dripped some coloured alcohol ink down the sides of the mould and then poured the resin over the top. And I really thought this was going to look better than it did. And once it was finished, it looked like a pink paperweight with just some random white stripes down it. I'm not sure what I was going for, but I wasn't going for this. Wasn't happy with it. But I wasn't finished with this alcohol ink idea because I wanted it to work. I really did. So this time I took another variety of colours of alcohol ink, poured them straight into the mould, not down the sides or anything like that, and I mixed up some resin with some white pigment inside instead, and poured that over the top. And unfortunately, again, I was left with just a solid coloured paperweight, which isn't what I wanted. But it does have a little bit of tiny colour on the top, but I wanted that a little bit more kind of spread out amongst it, rather than it being as subtle as it is. But that was the last time I tried this, because I just couldn't be arsed with it anymore. And I decided that the most successful paperweights were going to be the mica powder idea that I had. Painting it onto the surface and then pouring resin over the top. So I did a variety of different ones using transparent resin and then also resin that I'd coloured with a pearlescent pigment. And they have by far turned out the best. They look so good and it's such a simple idea, so easy to do, and they just look so nice. So I definitely think my most successful paperweight, out of the ones that I've made, is the one with the rose inside, and the various shaped paperweights that I've done with the mica powder technique. The others, some are okay, but the others are just like, they're just a little bit naff, aren't they? But since I've got these 7 paperweights that I think have turned out really nice, so I've got 6 with the mica powder, and I've got 1 with the rose inside as well, I think it's only fair to share, and it's time for a giveaway. A giveaway. Yeah, the last time I did a giveaway, there were only 2 coasters up for grabs, and I felt really bad that other people didn't get the chance to get a little bit of resin in their life. So this time there's 7 chances for you to win this little paperweight, and they are quite small. They're just like little cute things that would look quite nice on your desk. I think they're nice anyway. And then 1 special person will get the rose one. So if you want a chance to win one of these paperweights, then all you need to do is leave your Instagram handle or your Twitter handle down in the comments below, and I'll slide into your DMs and let you know if you've won after a week. So I think that pretty much does it for today's video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know if you have any other kind of resin craft projects or anything like that you want to see me do on the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week for a brand new video. Bye!